Now, a couple of days before I lectured in Virginia City, 2 stagecoaches were robbed near the town. This event was on everybody's mind when we arrived. The night after lecturing in Virginia City, I walked over the desolate divide and down to Gold Hill and lectured there. At 11 that night, I started walking back to Virginia City, along with my agent, Mike. The divide was high, unoccupied ground between the towns, the scene of 20 midnight murders and 100 robberies. As we climbed up and stepped out on this eminence, the Gold Hill lights dropped out of sight at our backs, and the night closed down gloomy and dismal. A sharp wind swept the place too and chilled our perspiring bodies through. "I tell you, I don't like this place at night," Mike said. "Well, don't speak so loud," I said. "You needn't remind anybody that we are here." Just then, a dim figure approached me from the direction of Virginia City. He came straight at me, and I stepped aside to let him pass. He stepped in the way and confronted me again. Then I saw that he had a mask on and was holding something in my face. I heard a click, click, and recognized a revolver in dim outline. I pushed the barrel aside with my hand and said, "Don't." He said, "Your watch, your money." I said, "You can have them with pleasure, but take the pistol away from my face, please. It makes me shiver." "No remarks. Hand out your money." "Certainly I—" "Put up your hands. Don't you go for a weapon. Put 'em up higher." I held them above my head. After a while he said, "Are you going to hand out your money or not?" I dropped my hands to my pockets and said, "Certainly I—" "Put up your hands. Do you want your head blown off? Higher." "Are you going to hand out your money or not?" Again, put up your hands. By George, you want the head shot off you awful bad." "Well, friend, I'm trying my best to please you. You tell me to give up my money, and when I reach for it, you tell me to put up my hands. If you would only— Now, please, take some of those revolvers out of my face. Every time one of them clicks, my liver comes up into my throat. If you have a mother, any of you, or if any of you has ever had a mother, or a grandmother, or— Cheese it. Will you give up your money, or have we got to— There, none of that. Put up your hands." "Gentlemen, you say that I've got to hold up my hands, and so I can't take out my money. But if you'll be so kind as to take it out for me, I will do as much for you some— Search him, Beauregard, and stop his jaw with a bullet quick if he wags it again. Help Beauregard, Stonewall." When everything had been taken from me, watch, money, and a multitude of trifles of small value, the attackers finally disappeared into the gloom after telling us to keep our hands up and not move for 10 minutes. It was depressingly still and miserably cold. Now, this whole thing was a practical joke, and the robbers were personal friends of ours in disguise, and 20 more lay hidden within 10 feet of us during the whole operation, listening. Mike knew all this and was in on the joke, but I suspected nothing. To me, it was most uncomfortably genuine. When we had stood there in the middle of the road 5 minutes like a couple of idiots, with our hands aloft, freezing to death by inches, Mike's interest in the joke began to wane. He said, "The time's up now, ain't it?" I said, "No, you keep still. Do you want to take any chances with these bloody savages?" Presently Mike said, "Now the time's up anyway. I'm freezing." "Well, freeze. Better freeze and carry your brains home in a basket. Maybe the time is up, but how do we know? Got no watch to tell by. I mean to give them good measure. I calculate to stand here 15 minutes or die. Don't you move." So, without knowing it, I was making one joker very sick of his contract. When we took our arms down at last, they were aching with cold and fatigue. And when we went sneaking off, the dread I was in that the time might not yet be up, and that we would feel bullets in a moment, was not sufficient to draw all my attention from the misery that racked my aching body. Soon after that incident, I decided to leave the far west and return home. When I had come out to Nevada with Orion in 1861, I had expected to stay for 3 months. I thought the war would surely be over by then, and it ended up being 5 years in Nevada and California for me. To make a long story short, soon after I returned home, I was engaged to take part in a pleasure excursion to Europe and the Holy Land and write about it. That ended up as a book called The Innocents Abroad. Still my best-selling book. The group on the ship that I was a part of, we called ourselves the Quaker City Nighthawks, the Quaker City being the name of the ship on which we traveled. We called all of our foreign guides Ferguson. That was easier than trying to remember a new name in every city, especially those strange and unpronounceable foreign names. Speaking of that,